Well, here is what I promised. If you follow me on my Instagram or on my Facebook and saw the post related to Barbie or the poll that I posted, thank you for participating and giving your opinion. I think I got like 30 votes in Spanish to do this and another 30 more. And the goal was to have like 50 votes total. And I think that if you sum both polls, I reached like over 60 votes. So why not to do this? It calls my attention that a polemic debate was created on social media regarding the Barbie movie and the Oppenheimer movie. But most of all, disgusted man, enraged man, because of the depiction that the man got on the Barbie movie. And I thought that it was pretty interesting and worth of my time making a reflection to see, as a man, my impressions of the movie. I really enjoyed it. I had a blast. I couldn't stop laughing since the beginning of the movie up until it ended. Their jokes, I don't think they were a little bit like up in tone, but still I think they are effective, demonstrating what the society is and what the perspectives are of both sexes, both men and women, and the expectations that they have of what both papers and characters should be in today's society. I think that through the exaggeration, following the style of the best dark comedies that I love, they managed to do this on a fantastic way. And I think that's genius. That is really creative. That it's a really wonderful way to make you reflect. I would like to clarify the fact that this is a comedy. It's supposed to be a comical movie. It's not supposed to be philosophical. It's not supposed to be a depiction of what reality is. I think that every movie, every comedy is not supposed to be based strictly on political, societal, economical, and historical facts. And I think that every movie can be subjected to this. I mean, if you're expecting to find real raw content on a movie, I don't think that necessarily what movies are supposed to be for. For that, we have documentaries or books. And even documentaries can be biased, same as books. I think you can justify whatever on a movie or on a documentary, and not necessarily because it's on the big screen, it means that it's 100% true. That is a valid reflection for the times we're living. It is a movie so you can have a good time, so you can enjoy the jokes, and sometimes they offer reflection, and that's the valuable thing about this movie. The movie in on itself, it's not pretending to promote or to try to convince what should be the role on each sex. And I think this is obvious. Not all women are aspiring or should aspire or should be like a Barbie. And on the same sense, not all men are like Ken. But let me tell you something. I do know a bunch of Kens in real life. I know a bunch of men whose life would be senseless without an objective, without ambition, and without goals, if they didn't have a woman to chase or to go after. And they crawl and they desperately beg for their attention, for their validation, for the approval. And I think this is really sad, but it's real. I have heard so many men whose only goal in life is to, and literally, this is a raw example. I'm not gonna name names, but I do know people like this. Like, oh yeah, my goal in life is just to have 6 kids, 2 with each woman, and I'm not gonna marry any of them. And this is really sad. I don't think that necessarily is the role of a man. And I find this really paradoxical, that a movie that it is supposed to be addressed to only women and little girls offers this reflection and depiction of how some men are. In this sense, the movie is really, really good at on showing you what is not supposed to be a woman as well. And that is to wake up perfectly with makeup, or to have a perfect diet, or to have a perfect body, or to be perfect in every single aspect, like never fail, like never fall to your emotions. And I found very laughable the fact that she freaked out because she found her feet like this, like on a form of heels. And believe it or not, this happens a lot outside of America. Most women are reluctant to wear sandals because their feet are flat. And this is something that you don't see in America. I mean, it's actually the opposite, or at least in Utah, which is where I live. But it is really, really good showing that some of the schemes, some of the standards by which both sexes, and not genders, which is a theme that should give me enough material to make another video, both standards are being questioned and are being pushed to their limits. And in this other sense, I think that the character of Ken is really, really weak. Is a weak guy, lacks of his own personality. He's always nosy. Like, he's always, whenever he's not being called, he gets on. And he's really, really weak and not manly enough. But let me tell you something. Another reflection that I could find about this is that not because, I mean, you can be gay, you can be homosexual, but this doesn't necessarily take out the masculinity inside you. You can be perfectly a man, behave like a man, and still be attracted to other men. Your identity has not, the way in which you behave, your personality shouldn't have such an impact on your sexuality. And this is a very, very heated debate. But again, I think this is enough material for another video. I have a lot of gay friends who I dearly love, and they still behave like men, like real men. It's just that they like men still, but not necessarily because they're men. They have to be manipulative or promiscuous or totalitarian or autocratic like it's shown in the movie. A man is a person who is brave enough to face the truth, to accept the truth and live towards it. It doesn't matter how awkward, how uncomfortable, how ugly, how depressing the truth is, or how hard it is to admit it. I think a man is someone who has his ego at check enough to admit it and adjust and make the changes necessary to be made in order to have his life in control. Not necessarily has to be a man the one who gets the most women pregnant, although we're biologically programmed for this, and this is also a subject of debate, but we are biologically programmed for this. That is a scientific fact. Back in the day on which we live in caves and society was started to be formed, this was a man's goal. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to live towards that goal, and we cannot be educated or live and behave on a civilized way just because our genes are telling us something. We are the Homo sapiens, I mean. And then I think it is actually the opposite. A man is the one who takes charge of his family, is responsible for his family, protects and provides for his family. It is someone who protects and respects his partner and doesn't perceive women as something disposable or that he can get rid of really, really easy. Or not the opposite. A man doesn't necessarily has to be totally on a woman's feet, entirely doing what she's commanding of him to do, or to be entirely emotionally dependent on her. And this is another interesting fact. I don't think that we should all have this dichotomic perspective of what society is. You know, this perspective of us and them, we versus them, women versus men, or men versus woman. And I think the absurdity of this point is shown on the part in which the men are trying to get together in order to transform the Constitution so they can have the power back again on Barbie Land, and they end up creating a war between themselves. And I think this is super interesting, marvelous, stupendous way to depict the world on what it is. And they did this by reducting each side, each band, on the way in which we used to play when we were kids. You know, kids, boys, when they're younglings, they play, what do they play? They play war games, they play cops and thieves, they play sports, which are divided in two teams. And by doing this, they never realized that what they were fighting for was a common goal and that they were not supposed to be fighting in the beginning. This was marvelous. And then in contrast with this, we had the women, the Barbies, united together towards the fact of recovering Barbie Land. And another interesting thing that I found about this part is the character of Alan, a man who was disliked by what the world has turned on after the Can took the power. And he was bravely enough to say, you know what? I don't like this. I'd rather unite with women to try to turn this around. And that's marvelous. I think that dude, that Alan, is the most manly man in the entire cast of the movie. Period. The other thing that caught my attention is that the way in which the Barbies united together towards trying to distract the Kens, this is actually something that women do. They try to unite together, and this is also the way in which little girls play. They unite together towards a goal, among many other things. But in this case, they showed an aspect of women that mostly no one talks about. And it is the fact that women can, and I say they're not or they shouldn't, but they can, if they want, to be manipulative, control freaks, deceiving, and they can use their physical attributes in order to achieve the objectives they propose. They do this, most of them do it unconsciously, most of them do it consciously, but this is something that happens. And let me tell you something, women are also biologically set and programmed to do this, because this is the way on which they find out if a man qualifies or doesn't qualify enough to be a potential mate. Because women, and this is something that we men don't come with, but women have a radar for detecting incongruencies and incoherences. That's the way, or one way, in which they can determine easily, consciously or unconsciously, if a man is a potential mate. What's the wood you're made of? How resistant you are. We men, we don't have that. We have to pick up and be educated towards this in order to succeed and not end up being manipulated by a manipulative woman. I'm not saying that all women are consciously like this. I'm saying that they can, if they want. They have the ability to do this. But this is really delicate. I think this is the main reason why the movie hurts so many egos, because it is sometimes hurting to see a comical depiction of what society thinks you are, or what a part of society thinks that you are or should be. And if it happens to you as a man, if you find your ego hurt, if you find yourself questioning or really enraged by what the impact of the movie had, maybe it's a good time for you to check yourself, to keep your emotions in check, to to revise, to revisit, what is it you believe in? What is it that you preach? What is it that you practice? What are your values? Why do you think the things you do? Why do you do the things you do? Why do you think the way you think? And this is a good moment to reflect on this. I don't think any critic should be taken as an insult or on an accusative way. It's just a feedback. It's just a feedback, and there are no good or feedbacks and bad feedbacks. There's just feedback, period. And it's up to you how you take it, how you take that feedback. What are you gonna make with it? Like Jean-Paul Sartre said, a man is what he does with what they've made with him, or a person, you know. That's the way in which he phrased it, and not only a man, it can be also a woman, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to convey. And then for a millionth time, it also reflects on the fact that no one should tell a woman what she should be or what she has to be. And I think it's a very, very not subtle way, though, to demonstrate that they don't have to be encapsulated or closed in a definition. There are no limits. There is no one who's supposed to tell you what you should be or what way in life you have to be. And if you cannot arrive to this reflection on your own, maybe this is a good time for you to go to therapy. It's never too late. And if you reach to this point, thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for coming and listening to me. I'm gonna be leaving a comment section if you want to propose something, if you think I missed something, or if you are open up to debate, or if you want to suggest me other themes that I should be talking about here, feel welcome. Thank you so much for participating on the poll or for posting comments on my Facebook post. It really encourages me to keep doing more of these things, and I hope you enjoyed it, and see you around.